Hold up. My views are my own. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Lightning round. Dangerously close.
My guest today is Hélène Cardona. Audiences will recognize Cardona from her standout role as beauty shop proprietor Fuffy Drew and the Academy Award nominated film Chocolat. I'm going to take one moment to stop for the listeners and say, guys, moving forward, I am going to say other names and words that are in French, and forgive my pronunciation. I'm going to do my best. Her credits also include notable roles in The 100-Foot Journey, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Jurassic World, Enough, and Mumford, among others. On the small screen, Cardona recurs as Monique in the Amazon Prime comedy Upload, and can be heard as a computer voice in Heroes Reborn, as well as John Wick Chapter 4. I can't wait to see that. Actually, that's the only one I haven't seen. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Loved that. X-Men Apocalypse. One of my absolute favorite of all the X-Men's. Happy Feet. I love Happy Feet. And Muppets Most Wanted. One of my absolute favorite films of all time. Sorry, I'm doing a poor job here. I need to keep moving. Coming soon, Cardona can be heard as the seamstress throughout the first season of the new original Apple series, The New Look. And you know what? I'm gonna stop right now. I could just do this for days. It's just keep reading. Also, I looked at your IMDb and I was very, very tempted, but I won't. I mean, just because you're in so much stuff I like. But what's up, Lena?
Hi.
I'm sorry. I guess just to everyone listening, I promised right before all of that went down that I wasn't going to just sit and just start reading this bio for 5 minutes, and then I proceeded to just start reading the bio. How are you doing today? And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
I know this is an audio only podcast for the time being, but I cannot stop looking at the painting you have behind you. Did you do that?
No, it's a friend of mine. It's a tiger. Her name is Alexandra Eldridge. She's a friend, an artist who lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that I've known for years. And I just love it. You know, a lot of her paintings are very influenced by William Blake, whom I love as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of images within, the painting that I love, Yeah.
Yeah, it's like mesmerizing. Did you say her name is Alexandra Aldridge?
Eldridge. Yeah.
Eldridge. I'm going to follow her on Instagram. Does she have an Instagram with her paintings on it?
Yes, she does. And actually, she's also given me an image for one of my book covers, because I'm an actor, but I'm also a poet and a writer. And
cool.
So my last, I have published 7 books altogether, and some are my own poetry and some are translations of other poets that I love. But my last one is called Life in Suspension, and the cover image is also by Alexandra Eldridge. Beautiful in a haunting way. It's called Life in Suspension. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just at first I was just talking to you and only paying attention to you, and then once I hit record, then I just noticed that, and I was like, I can't stop looking. So yeah, I'm gonna follow her, and that's cool that she did the cover of your book too. Yeah. I bet actually this must be great that anyone that does a Zoom call with you must be like, hey, what is that painting in the
Yeah, sometimes I'm here and sometimes I'm at my other desk, and it's all my books behind me, so I just sometimes want to change because it's usually just bookshelves. Yeah.
As you can see, I have a Christmas tree still, and I don't who knows how long that's going to be there.
Lovely.
All right, that was not meant to be my first question. So when I was reading your bio, I kind of glazed over this, but I saw that you did Cerebro voices in X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Days of Future Past, which I personally consider to be the 2 best X-Men films. And I guess I should mention for people that aren't X-Men fans, Cerebro is the computer that Professor X uses to find mutants. So my first question is, which leads me to my first question. If you could have any mutant power, what would it be?
Any hidden power?
Yeah, like any. It doesn't have to be something that X-Men has, but you can pick one of theirs if you want.
Right, right, right. Well, the thing about doing the Cerebro voices for the X-Men, that was very haunting because you're in these, other worlds, alternate universes, and all these voices, come out of nowhere, and you have to inhabit characters in sometimes very dire situations. So it was
Yeah.
really, yeah, it was brilliantly done, and it was very intense work. But I don't know. I guess there are maybe many, like being in different places at the same time. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those are both the ones with James McAvoy, not Patrick Stewart. So did he
Yes.
like is he like just kind of like playing off like were you in a sound booth by yourself and he's kind of playing off you later? Is that kind of how
No, no, no. I never got to meet him. It's like sometimes you work with some of the leads in the movie when you do the voices, and sometimes not. It just depends. So I was in a huge on a huge sound stage, and there's a big screen, like a movie theater cinema size screen, and the movie's playing, and then you see the images and you have to record. There's different mics, in the room. And so we were a bunch of actors working there to recreate those
Oh,
those
okay, cool.
cerebral.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I get the
yeah,
idea. Almost like working in like how like maybe in a Pixar type thing where it's like
yeah.
you see
Uh-huh.
the moving image and then you're just matching it and
Right. Yeah.
okay.
So,
Okay, cool.
sometimes your own booth, but sometimes you're in this on this really big stage, and it can be quite physical. You sometimes you have to stay at the mic, but other times you have to move around, and really be physically involved as well. So
Yeah.
even if you're working with your voice, the whole body is involved. Yeah.
That sounds fun. That's one of those things too that never really occurs to you like when you're watching the movie because I've seen both those movies a number of times. And in those scenes, it never really like I guess it's just one of those things because well, I guess I get very easily immersed in the movies and
Yeah.
I don't think about production. It's not like some people are
Yeah.
like that and they're like, "Oh, how did they do this? How to do that?" I'm so in the story that that's kind of stuff
Yeah, if it's
and
well done, you're in the
yeah.
story, right? Yeah.
That's I agree with you
Yeah.
entirely. I feel like that's one of it's if the movie's like it's like cinematography. If the cinematography is really really good, you don't notice the camera work, unless you're trying to. I think, but I could be. That's a matter of opinion, I suppose. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. I just when I was asking that, I was really not actually expecting you to say that's how it was done. That you're like on a huge soundstage watching that scene and then matching the scene and you're allowed to run around and kind of go nuts.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, thank you for humoring me and talking about X-Men a little bit. It was very
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you know
I,
what? It's really freeing to do this kind of work because you're not on camera, so you're just can show up, in very comfortable clothes and just like have a blast,
yeah,
doing all kinds of weird things, with your face or your body and your
yeah.
voice.
Totally off topic question. Did you ever read any X-Men comic books before you did the movies or was it
No, uh-huh,
no?
no.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
I grew up on those comic books. Like that's probably like how I got into books. Like before I
Right.
moved on to real books.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, comic books are real books. Okay,
Yeah.
so speaking of books, that was a warm-up question. Here is my real first question. So you're a poet, linguist, literary translator, and actor, and an award-winning writer and author of 7 books, and you speak 6 languages and hold U.S., French, and Spanish citizenships. So I guess my question is, so what, you think you're better than me? Sorry, that was not a fair question.
That's not a
Um,
fair question.
how did you learn 6 languages? How could you keep them
Yeah,
out of your
I grew up
brain?
in a very international family and set up basically, I was born in Paris, and my father was from Spain and my mother from Greece. And then we moved to Geneva, Switzerland right away, which is already very international. And my dad was working for the UN. So, when you grow up in Switzerland, everything everywhere is written in 3 languages.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you buy a chocolate bar, at the supermarket, and all the ingredients and everything, they're all written in 3 languages. So it's hard not to pick up, another language. But then I still did. There was a German lady, a German couple. They were friends of my parents living there in near Geneva. And I think when I was 10 or something like that, I just wanted to learn German, and she started teaching me. And at home, we spoke Spanish and French, and my mother taught me Greek. And then I went on to study languages. I went to study in Cambridge, and in Germany. I got scholarships, fellowships to study in Bremen, which is next to Hamburg.
Yeah.
And I got fellowships to study in Spain as well, in 2 universities. And so it was an interest I had, in languages, in addition to growing up that way, and then we moved back to Paris, and my dad still worked for the UN, and
Yeah.
all his colleagues were like from South America and such. Yeah.
I guess maybe like, do you feel like maybe you just kind of have just like the right kind of mind for it? Because I just like for me personally, like
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be fluent in Spanish. I've tried, I minored in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
like in college and stuff, and I got semi-fluent, but that's like with the help of school and having I was doing a lot of construction work and stuff at the
Uh-huh.
time, and so working
Yes.
with lots of guys who spoke Spanish as a first language, and
Right.
but I feel like I never could nail it. I can never like get like
Yeah.
so. Is
That's
that
an interesting question. I think there is such a thing as a brain for it, in a sense, because it's been proven that the part of the brain, that deals with languages also deals with mathematics and music. And I
yeah,
was a musician early on, since I was a child, and I was a math major in high school. And as a matter of fact, yeah, I was approached by Sidney Pollack when he was working on the movie The Interpreter, starring Nicole Kidman.
yeah,
And he wanted to speak to somebody who had worked as an interpreter and had knowledge about the United Nations. And then first talked to him on the phone, and then I got to meet him, and he picked my brains. And basically, he made the character that Nicole Kidman plays, he made her a Sorbonne, linguist. And he had her also play an instrument, because those things are connected basically in the brain. Yeah.
yeah. This is kind of like I'm completely out of my notes now because now I'm just kind of like just fascinated on like on this like polylingual. Is that even the word? Is that how you say it? Polylingual?
Multilingual or polyglot.
Multilingual. Okay.
Multilingual is the Latin one, and polyglot is the Greek one.
Polyglot.
They mean
I
the
mixed
same
them up.
thing.
See,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not even that great at my like first language. Um, so okay, I'm gonna move on to one more thing. So that was actually a second warm-up question. This is the real first question.
All
Uh,
right.
so you, as I said earlier, when I was reading, I'm a gigantic Muppets fan.
Ah.
We've done 2 episodes on the show just literally just to talk about the Muppets a couple times. Um,
Mm.
Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol, but you were in Muppets Most Wanted, which
Yeah.
I truly believe is one of the most quotable movies of all time. I really believe that. But my question for you is, who is your favorite Muppet?
Oh, I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know that I have one, yeah.
Okay.
It's a trick question.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. It is. Well, because yeah. I mean, I will. You know what? I'm gonna drop it.
What's yours? Who's yours?
Gonzo.
Okay.
All right. Well, then we're gonna leave Muppets behind for a moment, but maybe who knows? It might return. We'll see. But let's talk about some of the stuff you've got like that's upcoming.
Hmm.
You have an upcoming Apple TV show called The New Look about the rivalry of fashion icons Christian Dior and Coco Chanel. One, just to be a little bit silly, but also I'm kind of curious. Are you able to say which one you think is the better fashion icon, or would that be like a spoiler alert for you to have your own
Well,
opinion?
the thing is, this is a movie that takes place during World War II and right at the end of it, right after the war is finished, and it shines a light on these two fashion icons, and especially on a different look on Coco Chanel. So I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to look at the history and how how everybody was affected by the war and behaved accordingly, basically. So yeah,
Where's Coco Chanel from?
yeah, she's French.
She's
They're
French?
both, they're both French,
Okay.
and French fashion houses. And France was occupied, by the Nazis. So under occupation, and it had a government that was based in Vichy, that was collaborating with the Germans. So it
Yeah.
was a very, I think, uncomfortable situation, I think, for France, and also historically, I don't think we have come to terms completely with that part of history. And then there was a government, Charles de Gaulle, exiled himself in England, and from there he organized a resistance. And so there were, like, France was basically, divided, between the resistance, the people who wanted to and were fighting the Nazis, and the ones who were collaborating.
Yeah.
So it's it's a dark period of history. I think Germany has done a lot to shed a light on what went on and to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've ever heard about this. It's but I heard that Germany, even they don't allow Scientology, like the religion.
Oh, they were
That's
very strict, but I think that changed a bit. I'm not sure exactly where it's standing now. I know that when Tom Cruise went to film Valkyrie
yeah.
over there, he was able to maybe, he maybe was able to get things done. I'm not sure exactly where it's standing now.
Okay, because he is
Yeah.
kind of like he is the ambassador for that religion, and so yeah, I imagine if okay, so I didn't know that, but I'd
I'm
heard
not
something.
sure. I'm really not sure where they're
Yeah,
standing now. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
need a fact checker here, but I don't have.
I don't
But
know.
going back into your show, just and like you said, I know that this is not out yet, so we can't really, but maybe we could just dance around to some of the ideas, and then I promise, like there will be no spoilers. Just maybe like because obviously the Nazis were very fashion conscious because weren't their uniforms designed by Hugo Boss? Is that I believe
Well,
that's
that's oh, at the time you were saying already? Uh,
yeah, and like wasn't that their that wasn't like they have like a very famous fashion designer design all the uniforms for the infantry?
oh, I have to check.
I feel like
I
I keep
know that.
saying things that I can't back up.
Well, you know what they were. This is the dichotomy, right, with the Nazis, that supposedly they liked culture so much and classical music, and they were having those parties, and concerts, and they and yet their behavior was barbaric, right?
Yes.
Uh, uh, and and they say, I think the reason why they did not bomb Paris was because they were in awe of its beauty, right?
Yeah.
But I don't really buy that, that thing where, you can be supposedly loving culture and behaving in such a barbaric way. I think it's just
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't
No,
know.
that's classic fascism trying to seem like you're because their whole thing is they're so superior, they're so intellectual. Of course, they're going to be like, oh, well, we want to keep the art.
Time was really, I mean, it's really tragic what happened for everybody involved. But Germany at
Yeah.
the time was really ruling Europe in a way. They were ahead of the other countries in so many ways.
Yeah.
And definitely with the technology, it's like, they just it's really a tragedy, like what happened in so many ways, and after the war, basically it became this Cold War, this race between the West and the East to grab all the minds, from Germany, all the scientists. The US let a lot of Nazis come to the US because they wanted access
Oh
to
yeah.
that knowledge, and the same with the USSR. It became just, I mean, some of it is touched upon in the movie Oppenheimer. That is
Yeah. And
excellent.
the
Yeah,
space race. I mean, that's how we all got to the moon, is stealing those rocket scientist Nazis. I want to share this with you. I looked it up just to make sure I was correct. Hugo Boss, the founder of the famous brand, designed uniforms for the Wehrmacht army during World War II. So I was right about that one.
right. No, you were right. Yeah, I was trying to remember because so many American companies were working with the Nazis and funding them, and so I think Ford, the car maker,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah. He
yeah,
was there was a film. Oh, there was a film recently. It's called Amsterdam. I really enjoyed it. It's with Christian Bale,
yeah, yeah.
and
So
they basically call out Henry Ford in the film as one of the
yeah,
people, one of the American industrialists that was trying to collaborate with Nazi Germany before war was declared.
right. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's always like that, right? Between the financial interests, and politics and the interest of the
Yeah.
people for humanity. It's always a fine line.
The only people that really win in wars are obviously industrialists.
The arms
Yeah,
maker,
the arms
arms
dealers,
dealer. Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, the point is, I'm going to watch this show. I'm so much more interested in it now, because at first I was like, okay, fashion, cool, all right, Coco Chanel. I've heard a lot of her quotes,
Oh, it's
but
beyond
now,
fashion, definitely.
yeah, this goes way
Just
beyond
a
fashion.
picture of what was going on at the time.
And you are the
Definitely.
seamstress. That's your character's
Yes.
title, the
Yeah.
seamstress?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Well then, I cannot wait to watch this. So this is actually, I better re-up my Apple TV subscription so I can watch you.
Okay.
But moving on, you have a film out right now that's we don't have to wait. It's already out, and you're already winning awards from what I hear left and right for your role in the film Caralique. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, yes.
Caralique. Can you tell me what is Caralique about? Who is in it? Who is your character? Kind of everything. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what's this
yeah,
movie
it's a
about?
beautiful story. It's really a mother-daughter story. I play Arlette, and I Carolique's mother, basically, and the movie is really about mostly our relationship. How I was a designer. When the movie starts, I'm a designer in Paris, and I'm successful, but things go wrong, and then I moved early on to the US from France, and Caralique is a very small child very, very tiny when I moved to the US, and she grows up basically in America. And I'm having to really make ends meet in all kinds of different ways, like looking for different jobs because I can no longer work as a designer. And so, but the whole time I am basically creating a magical world for Caralique, who herself is a very magical child, and she inherits those artistic genes when it comes to fashion from me. She's obsessed with it, and since very early on, she creates all kinds of designs, and I encourage her. She goes through childhood and her teenage years making designs and trying to get them out, and facing a lot of rejection. But the whole time, the whole time I'm there, I stand by her and I support her, and basically it's this bond, between mother and daughter that really is at the core of the movie. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. That's kind of ironic that I was not expecting the to talk about so much fashion design
Oh yeah,
because
right.
I didn't know that your current project that's out and the new thing, I didn't know they both had a fashion kind of
Right, a fashion
like
theme. Yeah,
fashion
yeah,
theme.
yeah.
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 That's cool too. And also, like, this sounds like something that I would be very. So I became a dad last year. So
Uh-huh.
like the whole being a parent thing is like it's still
Yeah.
fresh and new to me. And I know that obviously you said this is a mother-daughter film, but I think
Yeah.
that
Well, it's a family film, really.
I think
Yeah.
I can appreciate it as a person that's a dad son. I mean,
Oh, totally. It's just a single parent because the husband, the father dies early on. So basically, it's just my daughter and me, but it could be a single dad. It's just, parent, child,
yeah.
family. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like you might have just said that, but like when you leave Paris, come to the U.S. Where in the U.S.? Like,
Oh,
in,
where? Well, we end up in California, basically.
oh,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah. And one of the joys about making this movie was first I loved the script, I loved the story, and then was working with Callie Funston, the child actress who plays the title role of Caralique in the first half of the movie.
yeah,
She was just extraordinary. She totally was the magical child. We were able to really create a world our own, and I had, I was just so impressed with her. It was her first film. She's a third lead, and she was so professional and so, ready to adapt to any new changes because we had script changes up until the very end, and she just always knew her lines. And she was just a delight to work with, I have to say. She's also a dancer, works with a famous dance company here in Los Angeles, Mother Dance Company.
cool.
And yeah. Somebody
So
to look out for.
I was oh you took the words right from me. I was literally gonna say somebody to watch out for.
Yes, a
Up
rising
and
star.
coming, rising star.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's super awesome.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah.
are you guys in my notes it just said that you're still like you're kind of on the film festival kind of like tour kind of thing. Like are you guys kind of going around are you like going to the
I think they
US
ended.
abroad?
No, I wish they hadn't, but they ended submitting the film to festivals. So we had a few festivals and we did really well.
Yeah.
I won 4 awards, and Callie won 2.
All
Uh,
right.
Idlewild Film Festival, we each won Best Actress, I did, and she did Best Child Actor. And Scotland Film Festival, and the Lady Filmmakers Festival here in Beverly Hills, and also the Beyond the Curve Film Festival in Paris as well. So yeah, it just found distribution, and so it's on Amazon Prime, I think, Apple TV, and
Great.
maybe a couple other outlets. And that's it for the festival circuit. Yeah.
Okay. So I will not be seeing it at a festival, but I could, if I
Right.
want, I can actually just go watch it tonight if I
Oh
so choose.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
said it's Amazon or Apple. I could get it either
Yeah.
way.
If
All right.
if you have Amazon Prime or Apple TV, yeah.
Okay. Well, you guys, you heard it first. Caralique is currently available at your house. You don't even have to go to a festival. And sometimes, you know what? You have to go to a festival. You have to get dressed. You gotta. It's kind of like what you're saying about how it's fun to when you were doing the voices for Cerebro.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
like you could just you know what you can just wear something comfortable, enjoy
Yes.
yourself. If you want to have
Carrie,
a glass of wine, it's not $12.
in the comfort of your own home. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess moving away from film and just into like this is just the world of my curiosity about things that you do.
Right.
I have to ask, as a literary translator,
Hmm.
you must have come up against some bizarre turns of phrase,
Right.
that are difficult to translate.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Like there's always like some really common saying in a language that has like it has a simple meaning in the language where it came
Sure.
from, but then
Yeah.
if you do an exact translation, it'll come into English. It'll be like if you have 10 shoes, you have too many shoes, and it's like
Right.
what is that? But like where it came
Yeah.
from, it's like no, that just means
Yeah.
like hey,
Yeah.
watch out for falling rocks. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask in your work, what are some of the most difficult or strange phrases you've ever had to translate?
Well, idiomatic expressions are always hard to translate because sometimes there is an equivalent and sometimes there is not. And so what happens is that in every language, there are words that just simply don't exist in another, and you have to find a way around it. And sometimes there is even a concept that's different, and I think it's always a challenge. And but you know what I always try to do uh, as faithful a translation as I can,
Yeah.
but the trick is really to capture the spirit of the text, the story, or the poetry, the soul, the essence of it, and sometimes that means just being a little different, the translation, but it's going to really be more faithful that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, so and even more than that, in languages, I think there are a reflection, each language is a reflection of the psyche of its people in terms of how the words are used, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's a great way to understand different people. So we don't really see each other as different. Basically, when I say different, it's just a different culture that is only different or foreign as far as we are not familiar with it, basically. And so the more you familiarize yourself with other culture, the more you realize, how similar you are in a way. But to give you a very simple example with Spanish, for instance, and it really shows, to want and to love. First, there's like several words, for the same thing. Let's say to querer
Yeah.
is both to want and to love.
I know this one. I'm sorry. I just got so excited because I actually know
Yeah.
this one.
And you know this one, and there's also amar, but it also, but it gives you an insight into,
Yeah.
into the psyche. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just trying to do it. Is it like te quiero?
Right.
Like,
Te quiero is I love you.
but yeah, but literally it
But
just says I want you.
But I want to, yeah, because you can say quiero comer, which is I want to eat, right?
Yeah.
O
But
quiero ir, I
in
want
English,
to eat.
if you say like if you say I want you in English, it has a very different connotation. It does
It has
not.
that same connotation,
Yeah.
exactly. Right, right. So they meet there, But yeah, so I find it really interesting. I mean, my new translation that just came out this year is called The Abduction. And I translated this Syrian poet, Maram al-Masri. She's now Franco-Syrian because she has exiled herself in France now for a long time, and she writes in both Arabic and French. So I translated her from the French, and so it was also a culture, a culture shock in a way, because this is the story. It's called The Abduction because it's about the abduction of her baby. So when she was a young Arab woman living in France, the father kidnapped the baby and took it back to Syria. And so she didn't see her son for 13 years. And so, yeah, so these are, poems that read like a story, about first the love of having, her son, and then the despair of the son being taken away, and then they reunite,
Yeah.
and which is really beautiful. And then it touches on immigration and war, because she's an immigrant, and I am an immigrant here as well. So, we have these connections. And the second part of the book is about the act of writing, how for her the act of writing is really an act of
Like catharsis.
yeah, it is catharsis, and it is revolutionary in a way, because she's a woman expressing herself and everything about her, her
Yeah.
desire. Yeah.
That's did you say that you translated that into English or
Into English, yeah. So I translate from French into English. I translated another poet, Gabriel Arnould-Jacques, also Beyond Elsewhere. That's a very spiritual book, from French into English. And I translate also from English into French. So there's a beautiful poet here in the US. Her name is Dorian Locks, and the name is actually French Canadian. And she all her books and all her poetry, all her books are extraordinary. The one I translated is called in English What We Carry, and I translated it into French, Ce que nous portons, and it was published by a French publisher, Éditions du Cygne in Paris. So, and I've also translated, I also translate from Spanish into French, into English, because my father, in addition to working for the UN, and he was a lawyer and a diplomat, he was also a poet. And so in 2008, we went to Spain, where the government of Ibiza paid a tribute to him and published an anthology of his work. Or was it 2007? I'm sorry. And then, so what I did, my father passed away a few years ago, but I had, in 2018, published this anthology of his work translated from Spanish into English, called Burnham Wood. And it's titled after Macbeth, the Burnham Wood of Macbeth, which has a political connotation of the people rising against, a totalitarian regime, because he had to escape. He had to leave Spain. He had to escape during Franco's dictatorship so as not to be arrested. And which is why I was born in Europe. He had left for Europe. And it's also a book about his love of his native island, Ibiza. So from French and Spanish into English, and from English into French or Spanish. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what are the other 3 languages that
so German, because I
German,
picked it up, I picked it up early on, and then I studied it at the Goethe Institute in Paris, and then I had a fellowship to study it and live in Bremen, Germany, and then of course Greek, because of my mom.
Oh yeah.
But I picked up Italian along the way, and so I use it sometimes for work as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I don't know very much of that at all. But it's fun. You made me think of something just this popped into my head. I got really into the Netflix series Narcos, and I watched it a couple times. It's the Pablo Escobar story, and then there's also the one that's Narcos Mexico, which is a lot closer to the type of Spanish that I am more familiar with speaking, because I've known a lot more people from Mexico. But as I had told you previously, like where I was, outside of the classroom, where I was learning a lot of my practical Spanish was on construction sites, which made me, like, I would say, more adept at, let's say, like colorful language, or like, like, you know what I mean? The word,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? But and if you watch Narcos, it's very vulgar, and there's a lot of, I leave the subtitles on, and because I do need them just to really, follow the show well.
Yeah.
But all the time I'm catching them, and I'm like, that's not what he said. It's not exactly. It is, But that's the one thing that's when you were bringing up take care. I remember learning that in school and then being like, oh, that's kind of great, because when you see it in Narcos, they do it all the time where they're like, take care of, and it's something that you would just say to like anybody that you love, not someone that you necessarily romantically loves, but like, they also, they'll say like, they'll say something crazy or just off the wall, and then on the screen below it just says bastards, and I was like, that's not what he said.
Yeah. Yes, that's the more acceptable version, right? Yeah.
Just to refresh my memory, going back, the author of The Abducted, can you?
Yeah, The Abduction. Yeah.
The Abduction. Can you please say her name again? Because I don't know.
Yes. It's Maram, Maram, Al Masri, Masri.
Awesome. I think I'm gonna check that out. I have a question too. Like, I mean, obviously you speak all these languages, but I imagine that you probably like still maybe dabble to a little bit, with some other stuff. So with her situation, she was speaking Arabic originally. I'm sure that's her first language.
Yes.
And then she, I don't know if she knew
she
French.
studied, she studied in England, and then she moved to France. So she.
So she's also a polyglot.
She's also a polyglot. Yeah.
Okay, I was just kind of curious. So, but yeah, it's almost even kind of wilder, because it comes from someone whose first language is Arabic. She wrote it in French, and then you translated it into English. So
she wrote it in both French and Arabic.
Oh,
so
wow.
The French edition is bilingual, Arabic and French, Arabic. And then so I worked from the French, but I've known her 10 years, and I met her in 2017 in Paris, and we've had a lot of phone conversations as well to make sure I got exactly what she meant. because of the original being in two languages, precisely, yeah.
But I'd be interested to know how different the Arabic version and the French version are as she wrote them, because I've like, for instance, like I have heard this multiple times about the Quran, that
Uh-huh,
if you don't read Arabic,
uh-huh.
the Quran doesn't it's not as good, or it's like it doesn't make
Right.
it's not as poetic or something. Like
Uh-huh.
it's a much more poetically written
Yes, yes.
book than it
No,
is
that's
if you read it in
precisely
English.
because of that I needed to talk to her, because I didn't want to take the French just at face value. I
Yeah,
wanted to ask questions about certain, lines in the French, and to go back to exactly what she meant in Arabic, to go back to the source. Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, all right, man, I have so much stuff to check out. So I gotta check out your show. I gotta check out your new movie. I gotta check out this book. Um, but I have to say
And
we
my
are
own
getting.
and my own book, Life in Suspension.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry. Well, we'll get to that too. But I would
yeah,
have to
yeah.
say this, that we are getting dangerously close to the
Mm.
lightning round. And I have to be honest with you, some people get really, really easy lightning rounds, and some people get really hard ones. And co-producer Colleen just sent me yours, and I believe that you have been someone who has selected for a very difficult lightning round. And this is, as we said, literary translation. She sent me a bunch of English phrases.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we, like, just for fun, we won't do all the we'll do a couple different languages for some of them. And will you uh will you translate the like the phrase or word, and then
Okay.
tell me what it would literally mean in English? Would that be
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. The way the lightning round works too is that it's like supposed to be super fast, like no time to think. Although obviously this is like really, I'm asking you to do literary translations with no time to think. So I totally understand the absurdity of what I'm asking, but
Okay.
just like just gut reaction of what you would think the translation
Yeah.
would be. So
Uh-huh.
first one off the top, this is going to be impossible. Let's go into French if that's fine with you.
Yeah.
Uh hot diggity dog.
I don't know. What is
You don't know the phrase hot diggity dog?
I've heard it. I'd have to see the context.
Okay. You're always free to say pass.
Yeah, a pass.
Okay. How do you say hot in French?
Oh, that's one that's very similar, because it's chaud, and it's also used with all the different meanings in French, just like in English.
Oh, actually, how do you say this? Like a hot dog, like that you would eat.
Oh yes, that we've kept the English word in French.
Oh, you
The
just say
French,
hot dog?
yeah.
Okay, well
Mm.
then I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna make an executive literary translation decision and say that if you want to say hot diggity dog in French, you just say hot diggity dog, because they say hot dog, and the diggity part is just that's a flourish.
Right.
We're learning a lot. Okay, how about this one? Let's go into Spanish.
Okay.
Get your goat. You know, like when someone gets your goat.
It like bothers you, right? Is that
Yeah,
what it is?
like that. Like, ah, he's really getting my goat.
Yeah. This is really hard for me to do
No,
at the moment, because
this is the hardest lightning round I've ever seen anyone get.
yeah. Going back to the those expressions in French where we use the English in French as well. Some have both. Like, let's say the weekend in English, right?
Yeah,
We use weekend in French, but we also use fin de semaine, which is really the French way of saying weekend, which is fin de semaine, end of week, right?
yeah,
So the purists, there are some purists in French in France who don't like using English expressions. They think it's tainted the French language, right? And so they'll use fin de semaine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But everybody uses weekend, nowadays. It's like it's really infiltrated the French language. But you can still say fin de semaine. And the other thing about language is languages are alive.
yeah.
They're not dead. I mean, we know the dead languages like Latin and so on. but they evolve, they evolve. And so, but the French Academy is very set into protecting the French language. And so it's a fine line between, how is the language evolving and how much, because all the languages, I mean, when you look at English, okay, let's look at
Yeah.
English. Right? English has more Latin words than Anglo-Saxon words, but most people don't know that because English is Anglo-Saxon, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at the number of words that have a Latin origin, there's many more. And so that comes from the Norman invasion, right, of England. And some words will have like a French one and a Saxon one, right? So sometimes like for animals and food, one will be the animal in the wild or in the that you're raising will have the Anglo-Saxon word, and the one you eat will have the French word. So
Ooh, I recall this from a Joseph Campbell lecture about a time period when France was dominant over England. And so the English were more of the peasants and the French were more of the
right, yeah, yeah,
aristocrats. So when you had pig was that was like the English word, and that meant like animal, and pork meant the food because the French
exactly.
people they eat it's in yeah, and it
Yes,
was kind of the same thing cow or beef. Well, I guess what's French vache vac
vache is the cow, yeah,
vache, but yeah, but that was
and
like
beef,
he went
yeah,
through
and beef is
all
the
the
buff,
things.
and
So
beef is the
yeah,
buff that you is when you eat it, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
chicken,
that's
poultry, is that true too? Or
chicken and yeah. I
yeah,
mean that's typical, exactly. And so, but when you look at this, basically English is an extremely rich language because of that, because of having absorbed all this vocabulary, from Latin, French, and then the Saxon. So yeah, I mean, languages evolve, right? And they become richer. But it's true that we also have to be careful about, I think the French were very concerned for a long time about the dominance of English in terms of, overtaking, the national language. But overall, what the reason is that English is a very easy language to use. It's
yeah,
simplified, right? Like French has all these, like the conjugation, like Spanish, of verbs. That's a lot more involved than English,
yeah.
that just had an S at the third person, but everything's the same other than that. And then, languages like
There's no like gendered
there's no
nouns.
gender in English, like in
Yeah,
French we have two genders. German has three, and plus it has also declinations that it's kept, which is what Latin and Greek have. So English is really also English is shorter, is like more succinct in terms of how when you express yourself, you can, when you translate and when you see it with subtitles too, you always have to English is always shorter than the Latin languages.
yeah.
So it's lent itself very well, I think, for international usage because of that. But it doesn't mean that you have to erase the other languages, of course, right? You want to honor all the other languages, yeah.
One thing I find fascinating is I love hip hop and rap and obviously who doesn't, but like as you would think that a lot of what it is like when you want to hear the words and you want to know what the rhymes, you
Uh-huh.
like, or generally, if I listen to an American rapper, I'm hearing all the words he's saying, and then he or she is saying, and I'm,
Mm.
it's, in my brain, I'm like, okay, I'm putting it together. There's a story or a message being said to me, but it's actually incredible how enjoyable, someone who does not speak French, how enjoyable it is to listen to like a really good French rapper or
Uh-huh.
a really good Chinese rapper, like rapping in Mandarin or some another language that I don't speak at all. Like I don't even speak a single word of that language. But sometimes you hear like that's just something I come across mostly through film when I watch
Mm.
like foreign films that add in rap from countries that I'm not familiar with their language, and I'm like, wow, this sounds so good, and I don't know
Yeah.
what he's saying,
But it's
So,
wonderful to be able to watch movies in the original language, I think, and have subtitles. I think it's terrific, and the American audience in general has been reluctant to, resistant to doing that. But
yeah,
interestingly enough, because of Instagram and TikTok and all these videos that have like, the writing on it as well when
Yeah.
people speak. People are now like getting used to reading what people are talking, and I think that's going to be very helpful for people to watch movies in foreign languages, in the original language, which I think, because you hear the rhythm and the sound, and I mean it's great to dub, and it's great to be able to see dubbed versions as well. But I think it's fantastic to be able to hear the original versions. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's what you just said too. Like it's so kind of it's such a what an unsuspected place for such a great thing to come from. As people once again embracing foreign films in languages they don't speak,
Yeah.
because who would have guessed it? TikTok and Instagram's the reels with the subtitles
I
on
mean,
it,
yeah,
and
so
everybody's getting so
bizarre.
used to it again. They're like, oh, okay. And I would say like one of the very, like, just to take the irony to a whole nother level, I went through a little time period where I wasn't watching a lot of foreign films because I had gotten in this very bad habit, which I am really trying to break, especially like as a parent, because it's like it's bad to just be on your phone. It's like
Oh.
that's teaching on like a really negative habit, I think. That screen
Uh-huh.
time stuff. But I got to this point where I would watch movies, but I'd kind of like pull my phone out of my
Mm.
at home. I would never do that in a movie theater. And I
Uh-huh.
think I think I think doing that in a movie theater is like so really incredibly
Yeah.
rude. But
Yeah.
at home, I'll be watching a movie and really even enjoying it, but I'll get my phone out and be like checking my email, and
Uh,
so that's one thing that actually helped me was I was like, you know what? If I watch a movie that if I look away, I miss dialogue,
mm.
then I won't look at my phone, and that actually has worked for me 100%. So if I watch a film, if I don't speak the language and there's a dialogue scene, I'm not going to pull out my phone and check my email because I'm going to miss, like,
Right.
because I'll look back and I'll go, wait, what? Why? Why are they
What did I miss?
crying?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, if a movie is good, then there's no such temptation, right? Because you're completely in it. You're like not even, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I one would like hope. Here's the thing though, is I think there's like a thing with people with phone. I think phones are kind of messing people up because they're like addictive. They're like cigarettes,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like to a certain extent, like getting your phone out is almost like pulling out it's almost like you want a cigarette. It's like you want like take a hit off the phone. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's
one thing you can do is you can plug it in on a charger in a different room, or put
right.
on a movie in a language you don't understand, and you can't look away because you'll miss the dialogue.
Right.
Helena, I have to ask you. This is the most important question of the day.
Okay.
It's a multi-part question. Um, First of all, where can people find you, follow you? Once again, where to watch your new film, Caralique? And I know your new show is not out yet, but when does the new look come out on Apple, and when can we watch that? And then I guess what's the other one? Your book, how to how to get a copy of your book, and any other projects that you have so much going on. I feel like I'm just
Oh, thank
jabbering.
you.
So
Well, I'm on Instagram as Hélène Cardona Magic, which is my name is spelled two different ways. I mean, I have three passports. So on the French and American passports, it's spelled Helene with accents on it.
yeah,
But on my Spanish passport, it's spelled Elena, Elena. I'm using the French and American, writing on for my name for social media, which is Helene. So Hélène Cardona Magic, HeleneCardona Magic. That's on Instagram, and on Facebook it's just first name last name. So Hélène Cardona, I have a public page and a personal page. And then Twitter is also first and last name. And I have a website, which is my name. And of course, an IMDb page where you can look up all the different projects. So Caralique is on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. And I think there's a couple more, I'm just not sure. And then my books are Dreaming My Animal Selves is a book that is very much inspired by animals and dreams, and Life in Suspension. And they're both on Amazon. My publisher is in Ireland, Salmon Poetry, and you can also order directly from Salmon Poetry. And yeah, independent bookstores. The translation, The Abduction by Maram Al-Masri is on Amazon. It's published by White Pine Press, and it's also on Bookshop and independent bookstores. And what else? The New Look is coming out in February. Yeah.
It's almost here.
Yeah, it's almost here. And yeah, I recorded voices for another miniseries that also takes place during that same time period, which is called Other Light You Cannot See. And that's on Netflix. And that's based on the Pulitzer Prize winning novel by Anthony Doerr. And it's also very beautiful. I mean, it's just completely different. It's a story of a young French girl and a German boy who, you know, who find themselves, like who are trying to survive. And you were speaking of photography, cinematography, you know, earlier on. This is a movie where it's just exquisite, you know, the way this was filmed. So I recommend it. It just came out.
I actually, I haven't seen it, but I saw that I was on Netflix and I saw that it was on there and I was like, ooh, I was like, add it to my list. Just there's not enough time in the day to see all the stuff.
Everything.
But
there's so much.
And now, I mean, you've added so much media to my list. And also I do love, like, obviously, it's always easiest to just order a book, but like you said, if you can get it from an independent bookshop, that's always, I think, always a preferable thing.
Yeah.
And just ask them too. If they don't have it, be like, hey, get this book.
They'll order it. If they don't have it, they'll order it from the publisher. Absolutely. And it's a very good thing to do.
And to make sure the things, you know, I always mention this too, public libraries, if they don't have, if they're not holding the books that you want there, just ask them. They will. All public libraries will always order anything you ask for. If you're just like, hey, I want this book of poetry in there. And it's not just for you, it's for like, think about all the other people that get to read this book because you ordered it to the library. So I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Order it. Ask the library to order it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Hélène, it has been an absolute pleasure finally getting to speak to you. And what day is this?
Likewise. Yeah.
Saturday. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday night.
Well, thank you. You too. Beautiful weekend and fantastic. Let's have a fantastic 2024, right?
Oh yeah, this is coming out in the new year. So we'll be like already having a really good 2024.
Yeah, let's have a terrific year. Yeah.